Hi, everyone. Best of Baltics, I wish somebody knew how many times we have done it. It must be quite from the beginning of Latitude. And it's really a session with startups that are promising. On the stage here, there have been companies like Bolt, where they just started, and similar stories we have heard here. The selection process of these startups is so secret that I even don't know. Before the Latitude, I get to know the names who will present, and so actually we can all learn together about their stories. But like always, we start with a quick overview of the Baltic ecosystem and where we stand today. As a kind of ecosystem overviews nowadays, I would say success seems to be commodity. Unicorns seem to be news in every day. We go through where the Baltic stands at the moment. Sneak peek, it's boring, records everywhere. But there are also two topics I'd like to very briefly discuss and share with you as potential things to watch out. So, just relying on Crunchbase data. Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania have almost 5,000 startups recorded. And it is still not as proportional. Estonia is leading, Lithuania following well, Latvia almost 1,000. But what's really significant, over the last 10 months, there have been more than 1,200 startups created. Estonia, about 550, Lithuania, catching up a lot, almost the same amount. There seems a lot of activity in Lithuania at the moment. Like since 2010, Baltic startups altogether have raised 5.2 billion euros. And what's slightly amazing is the number in small letters. So 62% of it is over 12 months. It probably shows how much our ecosystem is maturing, how big rounds are currently happening. I think it's really exciting that out of 5.2 billion, there are about 115 companies who have raised over 2 million, which is they have done their seed and they are ready for a round. What's even more interesting, the number has increased 43% over the last 12 months. There's a lot of opportunity that has created over the last year. The total money raised in Baltics, it can't explain 2021. It's incredibly good year. And in December, on one of the Christmas events, somebody asked, like, what's your prediction for 2022? I said, most probably it will be less than 1 billion. And already in January, I was wrong. We were close to 1 billion in money raised in January. Of course, we should look more into details, what it consists. Bolt is doing significant part of it. But it is the nature, the bigger ones raising more, next BC rounds catching up and building the wide base for the ecosystem. So top 20 funded companies. And you see Bolt leading it, number of companies who have raised more over the last 10, 12 months. Particularly happy about newcomers to the list. So Latvia, Printful, and Printify. I don't know what's about Latvia and printing, but here they are, being some of the most successful ones. And also newcomers from Lithuania, Nord Security, so on. In terms of funding, the ecosystem, when I made this presentation maybe 3-4 years ago, there were very few logos as investors from Baltics. And at the moment, they don't fit almost to the map. A lot of funds who invest below 100 million funds, some who invest above 100 million. So seed, early A, late seed, everything is well covered. And I think it's really critical to have local good supply of capital, because so many of us, we have enjoyed only good times. And very few of us have seen bad times when crisis hit. And from crisis to crisis, you see that local capital is absolutely fundamental when it potentially could happen. It keeps the ecosystem alive. So exits, it has been number only growing. IPOs, lately, over the last 9 months, a little bit selection of what type of exits have been part of our ecosystem. I would say a lot of complicated technologies get attention to large strategics. If I point out, for example, Spectix, that was acquired by Dynatrace, it is technology value and the engineer's quality that really attracts also in early phase global strategics. Last year, we tried to understand what is the impact of COVID. And actually, now we can look back. The total deal value when COVID started around 2020, you see it dropped quite a lot. It wasn't that high before, but it definitely dropped in Q1 and then Q3 particularly. What's interesting, the deal count actually didn't drop. So many small deals, and most probably existing investors willing to do more just to make sure what happens. Larger deals were standing still. And 2021, if you look at the deal value, it is highest ever across all different quarters. So the confidence came back and on the next level. And maybe there was also catch up to do in terms of funding because 2020 was a slow year. Just a quick snapshot about Karma Ventures. We have reviewed overall about 6,000 deals, and about 1,000 of them are from Baltics. It's a bit of data how our deal flow works. Out of 6,000, we have had like 114 advanced meetings, and in Baltics, 9 investments. But maybe to share what, based on our data, is the average ask from startups in Baltics. They seem to be quite equal across pre-seed, seed, Series A. Maybe a bit of exception in Estonia and A rounds over last year. Number is slightly smaller. Maybe we see too many deals in that area. But steadily, per years, you can see increasing demand for capital. And equal in Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. Just quickly on 2 topics that I think we need to pay close attention. And talent is something that's discussed everywhere. We have noticed maybe something more that makes sense to pay attention to. You probably have heard about the great resignation that's happening. People are leaving jobs and finding new ones. But the shift is quite significant. The younger generation, number 1 reason, I got better offer from somewhere else. I'm paid more. Second reason, the job was not good from a mental health. And third one, more senior position. It is a trend that's happening at the moment quite a lot. And it is something that to pay attention how the talent is moving. In terms of getting better offers, COVID has changed the landscape. And while many big tech companies formerly didn't accept remote work, then we hear sometimes also in our portfolio, top talented engineers getting offers from big tech, 3 times higher salary, you can work remote, which formerly was not available. And 2 to 3 times more salary makes the engineers to think about it. So there absolutely has to be more in the recruiting, onboarding, in your company's vision than salary. Because in a salary competition, in changed landscape, it might be a really difficult game. And second one is increasing question, and that gets many clicks in media, is a party over in terms of funding? There is some early data. US investments to startups, Q1 already dropping. And that dip also looks quite a lot like stock markets. In terms of valuations, you might see something really significant here. In growth stage, valuation has dropped a lot. In early stage, it is still almost the same. But early funding, later stage funding, bigger money has become more careful. The reason is here. If you look at the indexes, stock markets, then the last crisis that maybe many of you have not experienced, 2001, 2008, they are almost flat, and at the time they were crises. Look at where we are right now, and there is a drop happening. Formerly, the stock market has fallen about 50%. We are not there yet from its highs, and by far we are not there yet. The time to recover, usually 4 to 5 years. So, and if you have been through several crises, you just know that in every second you don't know what's next. Does it turn more down or it's end of it? So I think every startup should ask from themselves and really have discussion on how do we take the current situation. Our recommendation in our portfolio has been think about how to create 6 months more runway, just in case. But of course, alternative view is keep growing, keep investing like there is no tomorrow. The choice is everyone to make. Good. From Karel's perspective, it's an overview. Always happy to share more and learn more of your ideas. But now we are heading to Best of Baltics. And we have 5 startups coming up. 2 from Estonia, 2 from Latvia, 1 from Lithuania. And we start with first one. They made lately successful round. Probably they are absolutely happy, positive, and so on. So Montonio and Karel, please.
Can I get the clicker?
Yep, that's yours.
Great. So just a second. I'm gonna jump over here, do a little show. Oh, nice, I can actually see my slides. That's a huge plus. So hi, I'm Karel. I'm the co-founder of Montonio. And today, Montonio is working on improving online checkouts, offering merchants everything they might possibly need, from bank link payments to financing, buy now, pay later, and actually helping them with deliveries as well. Not at all how we got started. So in 2018, my co-founder Margus was working for a bank, actually rehauling their financing, point-of-sale financing solution. And he realized that what he was building was essentially pointless. And the underlying reasons being, there are huge drop-offs in financing applications. And customers end up overpaying by a lot. So we came up with the concept of aggregated financing, which is just a really fancy way of saying customers fill in a single application. They get multiple loan offers from different lenders, and it's all automatic and nice. And so our hypothesis with this was that this will generate more revenue for merchants, and it will also bring down the credit costs. And we earn a commission, so that's also nice. So we pitched this idea to Super Angel, and they thought it might as well give it a go. So they sent us, as a part of their incubation program, to Palo Alto, California, with the intent that, go there, breathe in the startup atmosphere, and do some market research. Because it was all about getting traction in the valley. So we went there, but turns out Silicon Valley is not the best place to do market research for financing solutions. As one of the merchants put it, listen, man, houses here cost like $7.5 million. No one's going to want to get financing on a $5,000 bike. And I mean, fair enough. But so we had a good time in California, but unfortunately not too useful in terms of doing product research. And then we were stuck in purgatory for about a year, meaning we needed a license in order to launch. That's a long process. And so all we did for around a year was literally just licensing, coding, more research, talking to customers. And it's excruciatingly painful. You really want to get traction. You really want to hear what people say when they're actually using your product. But you can't. There's no way. You need to get that license. So when we finally launched, I personally showed up at a client's office to make sure they had their WordPress plugin set up and everything. And again, been in purgatory for a year, and you're finally able to go live. I was so ecstatic that when I got in my car to drive back to the office, I was like crying with tears of joy and just pure bliss and ecstasy, so I crashed my car. Mind you, this was while we were paying ourselves minimum wages, so this one was still worth it. But eventually, we got traction, we got validation, and we proved that conversion rates go up with our solution and consumer credit costs go down. But we wanted to keep building deeper into that checkout. So things got really interesting for us about a year later when we launched our payment solution. So this was based, and still is, based on open banking. And it's pretty much the traditional bank links. So whereas incumbents are charging around 1 to 2.5% per transaction, we are offering merchants 5 cents per transaction. Sometimes it's up to a 40x difference in price. And this isn't coming at the expense of quality either. So we were still having conversions around 94 to 98%, which is good. And that kind of put us on a growth trajectory looking a bit like this. And I had to remove the numbers because otherwise this presentation would have been really expensive. But you know, graph goes up, so that's good. And during the beginning, we were onboarding hundreds of merchants a month, then 200, then 300, and it was getting crazy. So we didn't have a self-onboarding, mind you, so everything was done manually, like signing the contracts and creating the accounts and the partner system and everything. So we had to involve the entire team in dealing with this good problem of having too many people coming in and saying, I want your product. So that was really cool. And that brings us to today, where we've really expanded on the checkout piece, and now we're offering bank links, other value-add services such as card payments. We're also helping merchants with deliveries, and we have our own buy now, pay later, and also financing. And redacted. There's also some really cool stuff we're working on that I'm not ready to just name drop yet, but stay tuned, really cool. And well, basically, in around a year and some months, we've acquired around 4,000 merchants, and we've grown from a small team of 6 guys with laptops to an actual team of 40 people. So that's been one hell of a journey. And during this journey, we've been lucky enough to get backing from companies like Index and Terra and FF, and they're all great. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, I don't know, shoot me an email, catch me later. That's been our journey. Thank you. You want the clicker?
Thanks. Thank you. So crashing your car.
Yeah.
In happiness of finding the validation.
Yeah, also no casualties. Yeah.
Car?
The car was repaired.
Okay,
yeah.
That's great. Good news. So tell us about the feeling from the idea to the first validation. There is, you know, sometimes 1 year, sometimes 2 years, sometimes where you wake up in the morning and you don't know if it flies.
Yeah.
How does it feel?
Feels bad. No, I mean, we started working on the idea when we were still working full time. So we started working on it on the side, and when we finally got the investment, we were all in. We were willing to pay ourselves minimum salaries and just grinding away at it. So I think we were all young and foolish enough to just be super determined, and we didn't really let setbacks, you know, get in our heads, and we were just arrogantly going through all the obstacles until we reached some sort of progress.
But inside, the self-confidence, was it as strong always, like we'll make it, the vision is strong, or sometimes you thought it maybe doesn't work out?
I think we've always, again, like with this determination, we've always had the feeling that, you know, we're going to make it work out somehow. But in terms of like the confidence or assurances, that's been just something that comes as a lag metric, kind of. When you raise a round and investors shake your hand and say, "Good job, guys! Like, look at what you've built," then you're like, "I guess."
So I think it's a very bold move what you have done. I almost cannot imagine more red ocean where you dived into. The checkout is a crossroad of such a kind of strategic interest. Everybody's share. How we win. Did you think about this potential red ocean? Do you think now it's a red ocean? Or you have found something bluish in it, which is unique, which is you, and the competition will be like left behind?
Yeah, so I don't want to say too much on this, but I think we've found a really strong niche, and we're headed in a good direction where we'll find some blue water. So it is a tough landscape. It is a really competitive space, but again, I think this is such a teaser. Yeah, I'm not able to say anything specific, but I think we've found our own little niche there.
And definitely our investors have found the idea they are backing as well. On pricing, on your website, you're saying it's 10 times cheaper.
Yeah.
On pricing, which is already like heavily competing and so on, you're able to do it 10 times cheaper.
Well, yeah, I mean, it depends on the actual card sizes and everything, but roughly it comes to 10 to 40 times cheaper in terms of the bank payments.
You know, when companies grow, they might start with like TransferWise started with very cheap pricing. Bolt on the stage said, like, this is the cheapest option ever. Mm. And when you go big, investors are asking, like, can we raise the prices? Can you like take more advantage of the market share what you have? Mm.
Yeah, so the sort of strategy we have right now is that we're not looking to monetize, we're looking to just grow, and we see that earning merchants' trust by offering them a genuinely very good product that is also affordable opens up a door for us to create that customer relationship. Monetization is something that we have also been thinking about, and that we have plans and products in place for that. It's just not the focus for now. Right now, let's dominate the European market, get everyone, and then we'll start monetizing.
Which means you are not worried about the stock market crash, maybe economic slowdown, when you have just closed awesome round, you know, let's just do it.
I mean, everyone's concerned for the stock market crashing, but no, we're trying to play ourselves somewhat more defensively. That even if the entire economy goes bust, then we can spend some time working on the product, getting out the perfect vision, and then going again. So not too worried about fundraising or the difficulties that may be imposed by the economy. So that's looking good.
That's great confidence. Thank you so much, and good luck.
Thank you.
And next, we have on stage Joosep and Fractory.
Thank you, Margus. Hi, everybody. I'm Joosep, co-founder of Fractory, and here today to briefly tell you about what we do and what we are. Before that, obviously, thanks for having us. It's an honor to be here today and at this stage, at this now legendary part of Latitude, and share the stage with such a great group of companies. At Fractory, we are a cloud manufacturing platform connecting engineering companies with the manufacturing companies. So look around here today, the stairs, metal parts under your chair, constructions, metal is everywhere. Companies are producing different products, and they include metal in them. They're really good at doing it, but they also need some outsourcing, because the components are usually outsourced in manufacturing. And this is where the problem arises. The communication between companies and in the supply chain is inefficient and really fragmented. That's the same problem which my co-founder Martin was experiencing when he was working as a mechanical engineer, trying to get his hands on different metal components to finish his project. So, and this is also where Fractory's mission started. Fractory continues to guide manufacturing to become more sustainable. And sustainability for us is not only about green topics, which actually is a huge part of what we do as well. We reduce the use of material, the use of scrap, the use of transportation, as well as producing closer. But it's also about sustainability in terms of social and economic side of it. Social sustainability is something we take as a big mission of ourselves. Margus was mentioning the war on talent, and we see it also in engineering. Be it civil engineers, be it mechanical engineering, be it design engineering, product engineers. These are all sort of positions which actually we want the youth to learn and study. These are difficult topics, but actually essential for us in order to create new products, new solutions for us to continue in the future. We want to make sure that people understand drawings like this and they can create them as well. And this brings us to the economic sustainability, which is about resources, which is about having people's time spent wisely. That's an example in here where a company wants to order 100 parts. They send out a quote to 3 different suppliers. All of them have taught engineers working for them, spending hours in order to trying to figure out what's the cost of the order. But only one will win. I would say it's a waste of actually engineers' time when actually what we want to do is have software calculating the prices for them. And this is what Fractory is doing as well. Or let's take economic sustainability in terms of machinery. Around 50% of the machines in the world are sitting idle. These are these machines which produce the parts which we use in the products what we consume. And we can make those machines be utilized better and to have the return on investment for the owners as well. So this all brings us to how we do this. As you understand, we continuously try to find ways how to make manufacturing more efficient, more accessible, and raise the quality as well. And then how we bring this all together, what's the product we offer? It's the cloud manufacturing platform that connects engineering companies with manufacturing companies. And we offer on-demand fabrication services. And this is something which you can see in here, an actual laser cutting doing its job. This is our everyday, cutting out sheet metal. So Fractory in a nutshell, we are 4 years old. We have 72 professionals working in our teams around the world. We are currently in 2 continents. We have an office in Chicago, USA, Manchester, UK, Turku, Finland, as well as in Tallinn and Tartu. We have been growing 3 times every year, and obviously we're hiring as well. But this is just the beginning for Fractory. We continue on our mission to guide manufacturing to become more sustainable. And if you're interested in the topic, please ping me. I'm happy to have a chat and talk to you later as well. Cheers.
And design stuff, and I came back.
Cheers.
I was looking for something interesting. Could be an experiment.
It's not working, yeah? Now it's...
Maybe you can help us to expand the imagination. What have been most unexpected, original, awkward, whatsoever orders you have seen on your platform? Just to understand what's really happening in your daily life.
Ooh, that's a good one. I mean, we have customers who are hobbyists who want to have a sprocket for their own motorcycle, and they're having, spring is coming, they want to ride with their motorcycle, and they want to have new sprockets for that. But we also have companies who build staircases like this, and tons of material needed. More interesting cases, we actually have a production company who is doing a World War II movie for Hollywood. He's working in the UK, and we will help them build 2 full-size bombers, Second World War bombers, in order for them to shoot them up pretty much at the movie. So things like this.
That helps to fill in imagination.
Yeah.
So what was really the origin of the idea? Like, how did you, was it team or someone of you waking up in the morning and let's start fixing this metal stuff?
No, yeah, actually, it was back in 2016 when we were talking to Martin, and Martin is working as a mechanical engineer, doing procurement himself, designing products himself for different natural gas stations. And he was explaining that, hey, I'm having a hard time getting my parts because suppliers are not answering me, not answering my quotes. Lead times are getting longer and longer, and my expensive €500,000 project natural gas station is standing idle. I cannot finish it. And at that time, I was working as a sales guy for Mesente Communication, probably many of you know it, this company. And I had customers doing marketplace models. And we figured that, okay, probably this is like a place where a business model we can utilize to to help this supply and demand problem in here. And that's how it sort of became to be.
So I imagine you are excited about the business, with this product market fit. What was the finding? What's the breaking point? Quite often ideas which starts like, I have this problem, I go and fix it. You build the product and suddenly find customers want something else.
Yeah.
Was it for you like straightforward, yes, we nailed it? Or there was discovery period, yes, I had that problem at my work, but actually market might need something else?
Yeah, weirdly enough, I know that statistics says that the startup does 1.9 pivots during the lifetime. For us, from pretty much day one, we knew that, okay, there's a problem in here. Because Martin was an industry insider, and pretty much instantly we saw the reactions from the market that, okay, this is something we need to tackle. It's weird to say so, but we actually haven't pivoted pretty much since day one. We have done the same thing, continued on with this, and the problem is the same around the world. Now we are in the US, and we see even bigger demand for it. So.
Well, what's the core of your mission? I lately talked to a startup, asked from founders, like, why are you doing it? One said, I want to become rich. The other said, I'm only interested about coding. I said, do you care what the product does and to whom? Oh, maybe not so much. So what's the core of your mission? To become rich? To just code? You mentioned sustainability quite a lot, which is the word quite often.
I mean, we actually, if we start to think of our sort of why we do it, and we came up with this guiding manufacturing to become more sustainable, then we actually understood as well that since day one, we understood that's a big problem. Obviously, so there are side byproducts. Money is one of them, right? But we see actually that manufacturing as a general is a big industry, has a huge impact in pretty much our everyday lives. Pretty much everything we use in here, consume, is done by manufacturing. But it's sort of also naturally is like late adopter for digital solutions. And pretty much everything we do has a big impact in manufacturing, or sort of generally as well for the society. So we saw from really sort of get-go that this is something which has a sort of great cause as well. And we started and sort of have been doing it since.
You must be a marketing genius, because I wonder if I put to Google like order metal parts, there are thousands of links before. Where you stand out in Google, like on what page? How actually customers find you? How can you send out the message?
The same way. I mean, we have a really good marketing team. Shout out to them. And like pretty much our core lead generation is through Google SEO and stuff like that. So if you Google Fractory, if you Google laser cutting, metal fabrication services, we will pop up.
You have nailed it.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Fractory.
Okay.
Yeah. And now we head to Latvia. Longenesis and Emil coming to the stage.
Thank you so much. Great. Hey, everyone. pleasure to be here. So I will be talking, my name is Emil Syundyukov, and I will be talking about one of the industries that skyrocketed within the last 2 years, and it's not Web3. I will be talking about healthcare. Actually, a pleasure to see some fellow health tech guys from Latvia. Kristaps, hi. So I'm a computer scientist by education, so for the last 10 years I tried to collect bits and pieces and perceive technology as a screwdriver to help within healthcare. So we gathered together with a set of engineers, business developers, and healthcare professionals to ask ourselves a question, how we can utilize technologies to accelerate research and empower data-driven decision-making in healthcare by using digital tech as such. And the challenge lays within data, so data that we as a patient generate together with healthcare professionals all around the globe, that is siloed across multiple institutions, often unstructured, and not being utilized. So institutions, as I might say, are sitting on this data, as well as patients, as well as the broader population. And inbound with regulatory challenges and the lack of engagement I will be talking about through the case studies today, we come to the point where research collaboration are happening in slow cycles. It means that new drugs, therapeutics, or new ways how we can treat, monitor, rehabilitate are being introduced in slower. So we perceive a mission to unlock healthcare future by enhancing secondary health data use, basically how we can not only utilize data for treatments, but utilize data for clinical trials. So how we can ask ourselves and answer the questions based on the data insights, and how we can engage each one of us through the digital tech in this data-driven conversation and building digitized bridges with tech. And I will be telling more about that. So we at Longenesis build a set of solutions to actually correspond to the pillars within the clinical research, starting with helping and connecting stakeholders, which are healthcare institutions, regulatory, as well as the academic and industrial players all together, to find the data that matters within certain clinical research project or certain public health initiative, as well as to join each patient and also broader population members into data-driven conversation together with a clinician or clinical researcher. And I'll be telling a little bit more about that and about the challenges for sure. So first of the steps is data discovery. So the state of the art, so basically we all generate data once we come to the hospital, to the lab, to the registry, to the biobank. And the state of the art basically focus on centralization of data. So basically we ingest data from multiple hospitals in Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, any country you might imagine, put this in a centralized place, anonymize this fully, and let the researchers play with that. So it brings a couple of different challenges that we address with our tech. And one of the challenges for sure is regulatory. So it's not so easy. We're speaking about privacy and sensitive data. It's not so easy to just, drag and drop data without any concerns, as well as we'll lose the personalization that we're fighting for. Because behind this data and the data owner is the patient. So how we through the data can identify and engage ourselves in generating more data, as well as answering some questions that have patients. So we built Curator, which is basically a centralized platform where data stays local, so we never touch the data, and help institutions to showcase in real time what they have and how to connect with patients by using metadata, which is data about data, the same as you have on your radio player. You know that Katy Perry is singing some song, but you can mute the mic, mute your sound system, and the same way the tabular view of statistical overview comes to Curator. We can parse it, visualize this in real time, and provide pharma, medtech, AI, research collectives an ability in real time to understand certain patient profiles, certain data items without compromising any privacy matters. So once identified, another step we're talking about is providing patient centricity or ethics by design principles. And one of the steps there is consent. So oftenly it's paper-based solution mainly means that it's not dynamic, there's no ability to engage dynamically the patients. So that's why we built a dynamic e-consent solution to empower any patient portal, any solution also having our own platform, basically being used by more than 350,000 patients worldwide, including national initiatives in the MENA region. And the third step is basically building the conversation between researchers and patients, taking the concern of the time. I will give one case study and then I will follow up with the questions. It's basically like building Lego bricks. So there is a patient journey with multiple phases, starting from screening activities, ending up with diagnostics, treatment, rehabilitation. And that's where we built Engage, which basically allows clinician or researcher to drag and drop different interaction modules and engage ourselves in conversation, receiving personalization, but also having control of our data and receiving personalized reports and joining this conversation with the clinician. So quickly about the successful project and why we're here. We're a growth stage startup. We have old numbers here as well, but nevertheless, 350,000 patients worldwide in 14 countries, 10 different disease domains, and 2 governmental projects in our backpack. And just switching back and turning back to the Q&A, I know we're out of time. One of the use cases I would like to talk on why we're there and how it's changed the state-of-the-art concept is our collaboration. One of those with a company called Medtronic, where basically joined forces with patient advocacy groups suffering from type 1 diabetes to understand better the quality of life changes using certain different medication treatment protocols. And in this case, we interviewed, Medtronic used our Curator platform to identify in multiple patient advocacy groups and clinical centers the patients, talk with clinicians and engage patients in conversation, generating more data. And once we interviewed, during the exit interviews, we talked with patients, and one of the changes in comparison to state-of-the-art was the following. In classical state-of-the-art research, the only thing that patients receive once the clinical specialist coming to the hospital room is thank you. He's asking questions, filling in the survey or the form, and say thank you, have a good day. We, on behalf of the digital company, are providing personalization. So basically, patient is involved not only controlling the data, but also receiving personalized reports as such. So he understands why to share the data, why to contribute, receiving personalization per se, and having this and helping him throughout the journey. So with this in mind, I'll be happy to answer the questions. We have a set of case studies, very beautiful pictures there. Also AI capabilities, and this is the team of ours who joined our crazy idea 3.5 years ago. Thanks to them, and I'll be happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you. You must be really in a tough business, because one would say you are selling trust. On data collection side, you must have major trust in place, and in delivering data, you must have major. How do you, small startup from Latvia, and trust us? How do you make it happen?
It's a super controversial industry as such. I was speaking about the skyrocketing, so everyone during COVID said we need to be digitized. But from the other hand, it means that it's very sensitive, so it's better to stay on your place, not to go with any companies like that. But what is more controversial is when I started working in hospitals 10 years ago, I've met investigators having their own notebook in the pockets, full with the phone numbers of patients. So they're holding this in a small notebook, which means the sensitivity and the privacy as such is a little bit different. So that's why we did the trial and error, and basically that's why we have a set of pilots, around 25 of them. It means that we're not revenue-driven with such pilots, so we have revenues from other projects, but we start to show and bringing academic institutions, showing the value right away before we integrate, before we provide the technology. So technology as a screwdriver only, value first.
So sometimes the team is great, product is great, investors are great, everything looks great, but market timing is not there. Do you feel like you have market timing in place right now? And you mentioned COVID, and everybody wants to be digitalized. But there is something also in crisis-generated market timing, which is like when the crisis will pass, okay, that's not urgent anymore. Do you feel like there is a sense of urgency in the industry, and the timing is now?
Sure, and yeah, investors are great for sure, as well as the team, thanks to that. But nevertheless, COVID brought, the oversaturation of talks. Like we had this set of calls stating, hey, can you provide us this telehealth, any patient queuing, this and that. And this is both good and bad thing, because oversaturation means that they buy 20 of different systems and then how to combine this all together. But nevertheless, one of the things is, I think is legislation in European Health Data Space and Digital Data Act as well, which brings patients as data owners finally, not only GDPR-wise, but actually health data-wise as well, which shifts the mindset of industry as such, meaning that we cannot be passively involved anymore. So this is one of the acceleration factors that helps us. But once again, I think one of the things beyond companies speaking about being digital first is that we bring value firstly to the classical protocol that pharma might have, a medtech company might have, and then we say, you know what, we have a digital approach to that. So they care about the end result, and then the screwdriver, as I mentioned before, helps to build this IKEA furniture.
So one of the key topics sometimes for early stage startups selling to large tech, big pharma, and so on, is to understand if the interest is real. And there are cases where, The research department goes through, R&D department, that's great product, let's go. Product says like, it's awesome. And you feel like you have landed like, you know, several $1 million deal. And then one case we had in the past, the marketing department says, no, we are not going to sell that. And suddenly you lost it all. How do you know that actually the interest is real and it is not just, you know, large tech companies playing around with some ideas and trying to understand what's relevant?
Oh, sure. We spoke about this, you know, during the lunch with the friends of mine. So basically, you know, when you speak to chief innovation, chief digital officers, also in pharma, if you look into the structure, they're often under marketing department, which means that they would like to showcase and play around with tech, but not introduce this to the R&D pipeline or product pipeline, market pipeline and such. So for us, it means that we orchestrate and, you know, juggle with different balls, speaking with researchers as such, and bringing the exact value. You should pinpoint the exact value in healthcare. It doesn't work like, you know, it will be great or something like that. And then, you know, shifting this to the revenue streams or, you know, faster time, which means for the marketing or sales department much more than just, you know, playing around with in the lab or something. So it's basically speaking different languages simultaneously. And this is where the help of the company comes into place. We have medical doctors, business development professionals, and IT guys who can, you know, do magic with different things.
How to imagine the future? Can it be that I own my data? I have sleep data from Aura. I have activity data, Apple Watch, I have DNA data, I have microbiome data, I have grocery store lists, what I have bought. Would you imagine a future where I own this data and I just get whole my living out of selling my data?
Good question. There are a lot of
without middlemen, potentially.
Yeah, sure. So the good question. There are tons of different ideas stating that, hey, you can sell your own personal individual data. It doesn't cost much for pharma company because if we're speaking of multicentric trials, it's hundreds of dozens of different patients, multiple locations. What I believe in is through the companies like Ring and others, they're not still utilizing the power of, you know, secondary health data use. And this is where we need to proactively be involved in conversation with researchers. It's not about monetary value as such, but basic value that can bring, you know, content-wise. It's the same, I'm sharing my data with a company called Cardiogram 24/7.
Yep.
And they connected me with researchers, and there's around 300,000 patients sharing this data. And they send me academic publications stating, you know what, you helped us to understand the algorithm better, you know, to correlate certain parameters, so we will cure certain CVD diseases. Cool, why not? So it's not about monetary, it's more about, you know, about the added value throughout the patient journey as such, in my opinion.
Great. Thank you, Emil. It might be not easy, but it's worth it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next, we continue in Latvia. So, super easy company's name, Chef App. And Toms is here to talk about it. Thanks.
So, hello everyone. I'm Tom, but I'm here today to talk about another guy. Jeff has already introduced, or in other words, Credit Karma of Southeast Asia. So let me start with a bit of a random question. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go without animations, sorry about that. But yeah, surprise moment is gone. But what's the best way to fix financial inclusion in Asia? So you start from the Baltics and you take a 4-year pit stop in Spain, as it turns out. On a more serious note, this very much correlates with my personal journey, as I ended up in Spain in my early 20s working on a couple of fintech ventures. And then one thing led to another, and I ended up interacting with some Southeast Asian projects with the counterparts and partners and alike. And one big difference we saw there between Spain or Estonia or Latvia or any other developed economy really was that a lot of people were restricted access to money and financial services in general, not because they would be bad with bad credit profile or something like that, but just because you didn't know the first thing about them. There were no data sources. So digging deeper into that, we figured out a couple more things. That there is actually over 1 billion people like that in Asia alone. And if we look deeper at markets like Vietnam, Indonesia, Philippines, some of the largest emerging economies globally, only less than 40% of people there have and actually use bank accounts, and cash is still very much king. So this was the moment when we realized with my co-founder that this is too massive of a problem for us to be ignored. And digging deeper, we understood that there is a certain number of players in the market that understand what to do in this situation. So no financial data, no problem in their opinion. That means they would look at how people act and navigate digitally. So that's digital behavioral patterns. Anything you can get from the browser or mobile application or telco information and other data sources. But we realized that this is something that is still not clear for absolute majority of the Asian market and market players. So this is why we created Jeff, which is a financial marketplace that boosts financial inclusion through the power of alternative data. So we focus on 3 things, by and large. So we simplify the data collection and usage, meaning that over time, our partners, the financial companies, lenders, banks, insurance companies, and others, they don't need to worry about how to collect or put the data to good use, because we are developing a toolkit for them to seamlessly focus on their main line of business. By doing that, we significantly improve the access to financing, and along the way, the user experience is massively improved. I don't have an example up here with me today, but if you would look, see how an average brokerage service or financial marketplace looks in Asia, well, you wouldn't be too impressed, to put it mildly. So, in the longer run, our mission is to bring Jeff alternative credit score to all of these markets and more, and make it the common standard for underbanked and unbanked people in terms of how they can access financial services. So we've started this journey a bit more than 2 years ago to get to the better tomorrow in terms of data product toolkit and offering. We have taken a strategy of tackling something that these companies and people need on the market today. This is the infrastructure for them to meet. So we've obtained pretty good traction there in a couple of years, processing over 15 million loan comparisons. And late last year, we have rolled out our data service as well, which is now becoming our second revenue stream. And we are now continuing into moving Jeff from a loan comparison site to a financial supermarket for Southeast Asia's unbanked and underbanked. And of course, developing our data product toolkit. So one rather important thing for startups is the product market fit. So in 2020, we did a bit below $200K in revenue. That was our first year. Last year, we did a nice 12.5x. And this year, we are aiming at tripling that and a bit more. So there are a lot of cool things to come up next for us in the store. So this QR code is not for the reactions, but if you would like to grab a coffee or book a call or meeting with me, you can use that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Toms. So, Jeff, where the name came from?
I get confused more often than I expected to.
That's it. So, the story, you started in the Baltics. Is it fair to say it didn't fully work out as you expected? You went to pit stop to Spain 4 years, or how do you connect these points? Why Baltics, why then Spain?
Yeah.
Asia, we understand why.
No, it's, so first of all, it's a proof I need to dramatically improve my pitch. This is my personal story that, I grew up and got my education here, then I worked in a different business in Spain, but Spain was of all places the location where I got the idea for building Jeff, actually.
So I would say it must be a confidence to say that, from Latvia, we are solving the problem of 1 billion people in Asia. And I guess you could have thought that there's somebody else solving it too. So what you have seen on the journey, just trying it out, does it work? What is competition in the area? Because Asia is solving many financial problems on the go. There are large ones who probably are solving the same issue.
Yeah, so again, this, to answer it one word, it was experience. I was lucky enough to be in a position to work with an awful lot of these companies in Indonesia, in Vietnam, and Philippines. And yeah, you would imagine that in huge markets like those, there would be at least a handful of service providers and companies addressing this issue. But through interviews and conversations and market research, we didn't build this conviction for ourselves that there is an actual solution at scale solving this. So we just got started, and yeah, we are a small region in the Baltics, right? So we understood that if we want to go big, we have to go for a big opportunity, and that's what we did.
How big is your team in Asia?
In Asia, our team right now, including part-time, full-time people, is less than 10, but we are now ramping it up as we have discovered some offline opportunities there in terms of sales and go-to-market. So right now we're opening up a call center in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. So that's going to be fun how to handle that. But
give us a hint. What is the difference to recruit from Latvia, from Europe, and to recruit from Asia?
Yeah. So,
what did you figure out on the way?
Yeah. So obviously, when hiring people here, again, maybe it's benefit of us being a small region, but through 1 or 2 handshakes, you can get reasonable background on anyone and everyone, right? But there, you're operating in pretty much darkness. So when we hired our first country manager in Vietnam, we went to extreme length to, find people that, would be mutual connections where we would get a reasonable background reference. Because what we heard a lot when hiring in Asia, trust is a huge concern, especially if you're like from the Western part of the world. They might tell you one thing in, the face, but actually something else would happen. And then yeah, but once you get past, again, getting those first core people into place, then it's again, local cultural understanding and network effects start to compound. And with every next hire locally, we've seen it becoming, with some aspects, somewhat easier.
So we saw earlier on the slides in the beginning that #1 reason why younger generation leaves a job is I got better offer.
Yeah.
Or it was not good to my mental health. How much do you use your vision, what you want to achieve, your mission as such, as a tool of recruitment? Because finding alignment in what you do would potentially be most sticky to keep your team in place.
Yes, that's a very fair point. And I see this, one of my 2 main jobs. It's, #1 is making sure we, have the right people in the team and they can work together and have clear focus. And #2 is, sales, whether it's with clients or investors or potential next hires. So yeah, I've probably told this story more times than I've said my first name over the last couple of years.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Tom Spector. And the last one is coming from Lithuania. It's about education. Membi and Eimantas, please.
Hi everyone, I'm Eimantas. I'm CEO and co-founder of Membi. And basically what we do is we do exciting large class teaching online. This is me in 10th grade. I was lucky enough to have 2 amazing physics teachers who really made me fall in love with physics. And there's just something really captivating about conceptualization and problem solving. And so there I was back in the days spending like 4 hours a day preparing for a physics competition. And there is a saying that if you know a subject well enough, you will be able of explaining that subject in very simple terms for others. So naturally, I have started explaining maths and physics for my friends like since 8th grade. In 10th grade, I already was substituting teachers at school. In 11th, it became like my part-time job, so there I was. After the school, I found my another passion, which is entrepreneurship. But I didn't know what I was doing, so I was all around different projects. I think I had like 14 failed projects before pretty close to product market fit food tech startup has been created. And it was a fun ride. But then COVID hit us, and basically we were an app of inviting people to various restaurants to try out new places with incentivization, so we knew that we are too fragile to live this out, and we will not sustain. But up until that very moment, up until COVID, teaching was always part of my life. I was always doing that on the side because it was just something which really fit. But I knew that I had to make some form of a shift, because if you're too long in the same place where you feel that you're not growing, then something is really wrong. The question was, I was like knocking on investors' doors saying that I want to scale my startup. I want to do teaching on like this next level, and I really want to scale my impact, which I can make, and help others do that. But of course, without having that insane 2 maybe exits on the belt, or like a relevant, startup experience in previous Bolt or whatever, it was really hard. So I would say the first challenge which we really faced with our startup was what to do when you are pre-traction, when you haven't yet proven yourself and you don't have like the relevant, exits to do that. So we weren't coders, and what we've done basically, we launched our startup without a product. And with the COVID, basically, some of the teachers just disappeared, and there were exams upcoming, and this was the the opportunity which we've tackled. So I started actually streaming my physics or maths lessons on Facebook, and this is where we've started to generate the first revenue, which my co-founder Silvestras managed the ads, and this was the startup basically. So from the initial traction, we've hired like a junior programmer, and we built like a scrappy outsourced platform which we really believed in. So basically, this led to create Europe's first one-to-many teaching platform. And basically, the idea is very simple, is to help those guys scale. We are on a mission to make high-quality education accessible, because I understood that there are quite a few of these super tutors out there. So what we do is we just find them, put them in a classroom which is designed to scale their skill set, and we do that in an exciting manner. So not last, but like September before that, we've launched with our product, and within a year we bootstrapped all the way to become one of the biggest non-formal education providers in Lithuania. We taught like 3,500 students, and we've closed the pre-seed round of roughly $1 million from Bright Eye Ventures and Change Ventures. And the second challenge which we really faced was the conviction. Really showing, like, collecting the data, all these, like, this is the second stage for us, was really showing the data, collecting the proof that we actually work, that this concept is something which can drive change for the students. So this was the second challenge we worked on. And I would say the third one was to really understand how to design your team. What happened basically for us was we thought that, okay, we've got the funding, now we are ready just to pump it up. Because basically, I would say the core message of my talk is that wishful thinking can be really harmful. We designed a team who is basically capable of scaling the startup. But we needed a team which was more being able to talk with the customers and enhance the product. And so what we had to do this year was basically with a scale-up team to do product improvements, which was an extremely hard thing to do. But we've done it, and hopefully we are now on this stage where we finally will scale up on a different pace. So yeah, that's basically all the challenges and the fails up until now. Thanks.
Thank you. Did I get it correct? You tried 14 different projects.
Yep.
And they didn't work out.
Yeah.
Did you try to raise money for those as well?
Did I try what?
To raise money for those ideas as well.
For the last startup, yes.
So it could be like, hey, me again, I have new idea.
No. So I was the guy who was actually pitching 2 ideas at a time.
Okay.
So because I had the food tech startup then, but then there was the thing which I really felt passionate, but I need to scale the edtech startup. So I was the crazy guy who didn't have any traction yet, but there's the idea. Oh, I see that you don't like it, but here's another idea. Yeah.
So there are usually roughly 2 types of teams. So let's take education. Some know the education inside out. And they have figured out something which, could work better. They build product on that. Your team is trying in education. And some other teams, we know nothing about it. And increasingly so, for example, data scientists can crack almost all verticals because data is so significant value in many verticals. So do you need to prove that you understand the education, learning processes, that you need to prove that actually the solution works as a learning?
So basically, edtech is a tough market. And now everything related to, let's say, matchmaking is pretty much solved. And so there was a time when you could take the market over to win without adding the extra value. But we understood that in order to, let's say, find our place, we do have to say to ourselves, what kind of value will we provide being the third party between the content maker, the teacher, and the student? And the answer for us was, yes, we do have to focus on the product, which was finding the right mechanisms in the classroom, the right tools for the teachers to give in order to make that large class environment work.
Do you need to break through some beliefs that this is not the right way of learning? Or, it's
this is the only thing I do. Yes. So as I mentioned, the second challenge was the conviction. It's constant. It's constant. Okay. So do you have revenue? Yes, we do. But is there attention? Yes, there is. But how about acquisition? So it's always about conviction. And
who is actually a real customer? You have students, you have teachers, you have parents, and so on. Who do you view as? And sometimes the true customer might be not the one who actually pays.
Yes. This is a good question. And for us, we fought for a year that it's a student, and we can just skip the parents and just say student is the, let's say, value receiver, so we'll just market and target the students. But then we saw that the retention isn't as great whether we could, if we were targeting parents. So we've made a change, a leap, where we are now focusing solely on parents, because parents sometimes can give you that extra kick you need in order to learn, because eventually you're in this motivational business.
Yeah. So educational area is something where there are many people who are mission-driven and who want to join. So now when you have started to have traction, you have growth, what type of culture you are building in the company to reflect the values of education, learning? What keeps your team together?
I would say that the inside team is very different from the teachers' team. So the teachers are, let's say, passion-driven, that we want to really find some excitement in each of the lesson. As to our inside team, which is doing day-to-day, it's just extremely startup-ish in a sense that for us, what it's all about is having fun, but while still being disciplined and making those initiatives, those constant changes.
Education is such a vertical where I wish like everybody would do well. So I really wish you luck and hope it works out in a really big scale. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So this was Best of Baltics this year. And I almost can bet that we'll hear about these companies in coming years and about the successes like we have seen from every batch from previous Best of Baltic companies. Thank you so much for supporting them. Sometimes support and belief is the most powerful thing that founders can really feel and what helps them forward, sometimes more than investors or funding. So thank you all, and definitely waiting you back next year as well.
Nicely done, thank you.